You have questions?
What is slashing?
We have answers.
Slashing is, like that, you know?
Mm-hmm. And, there's a penalty for that?
Yeah. You do that, you go to the box, you know, 2 minutes by yourself, and you feel shame, you know, and then you get free.
This is CBJ in 30.
Anything you folks want to know about the fascinating world of pro hockey, here we go.
Tweet your questions by using the hashtag CBJIN30.
We'd like to remind you folks, keep your questions within the boundaries of good taste.
Here's your host, Bob McGilligan.
And welcome to another CBJ in 30. This is Thursday, right? It is Thursday, isn't it? The 12th day of February. As a matter of fact, it is. Indeed it is. Another day with no game, but one day closer to the next game for the Blue Jackets. And that game is coming up tomorrow night. They'll take on the Philadelphia Flyers at Nationwide Arena. So just wait for another day. Just over 24 hours from now, as a matter of fact. It's not that long. It's not that long. The Blue Jackets will be right back at it. And then they're going to be at it pretty much fast and furious for the rest of the way. But especially over the course of the next week. It's going to be a grueling next 10 days. It's going to be a grueling stretch over the next 10 days for the Blue Jackets. They will have their work cut out for them over and over and over and over again. So get ready for that. All right, let's start with last night. I'd like to thank everybody that showed up last night, all of the season ticket holders that showed up for the season ticket holder event last night at Nationwide Arena. It was a little bit, when I walked in and they sent me to my station, the first thing I saw was this, and I didn't know if that was really accurate. I mean, they could have pretty much put a set of quotation marks around the celebrity in the celebrity bartending sign here. But that was my job last night, as I predicted to you yesterday that I would be doing. As a matter of fact, I've got a tweet here. Let me go get it right now just to start things off, as Dennis Kelly II gets the first mention here today. And Dennis was standing there. He might have been, if not the first guy I served, he was one of the first that I served last night. And Dennis says, I've enjoyed Budweiser products for years, but last night was the first time I ever tried a McBud. Thanks, man. A McBud. There, see? There's the proof that I was actually working. And look at the pour. Nice pour, isn't it? As I told somebody, it's what you call not job security, but you have to have a backup plan in life, right? So if it comes to doing that for a living, it comes to doing that for a living. We'll see what happens. I'm not planning on it. Let's just put it that way. But it was fun. It was a good time last night. It really was fun. And thanks to all of you that came out and enjoyed seeing the players, interacting with the players, getting autographs from the players, and all of you that stopped and said hi and said thanks and just introduced yourself or whatever the case. It was great. It's fun. We don't get to do that enough, to get out and actually see the people on the other side, if you know what I mean, and maybe the same for you. I had a couple of people that came up and asked if the celebrities already left. And I said, yeah, of course. And, you know, sometimes, unless you're watching this show, it's certainly a face made for radio. And maybe even if you are watching this show, you think that. But you don't get to see the people on the other side, and sometimes they don't get to see you. So it was nice. I really enjoyed those events, and I thought the atmosphere was great. I thought that everybody was really kind of in the right frame of mind. And I mean, just enjoying and celebrating this team is the sense that I got from everybody that was there at the event last night. So it was a very good time. So if you were there, thank you, and we were glad to have you. If you weren't there, and maybe you're not a season ticket holder, maybe you should think about it. Just think about it, because those types of events are, well, they're exclusive, but they're very fun, and they give you that up-close time that you normally don't get. So thank you for that. All right, let's move on, shall we? Yesterday, while I was doing this show, Evander Kane did get traded right near the end of the show. We were talking about it yesterday. So the Winnipeg Jets, Buffalo Sabres, they pulled the trigger on the big trade yesterday. What a big trade it was, huh? I mean, that was a big trade, and especially for this time of the year to get a trade like that. Well, not this time of the year, but there haven't been many big time trades, big magnitude trades. It always seems like you're always hopeful, but then you're always left wanting more when it's all said and done. But that was not the case with that one yesterday. That was a big time trade, and as people in my business would say, that was a hockey trade. Now, what the heck does that mean, right? What is a hockey trade? What's the difference between? Of course, it's a hockey trade. It's in the National Hockey League, one team trading with another. Of course, it's a hockey trade. But when we refer to it as a hockey trade, we're referring to it as it was really. Sometimes trades are made for money and to ease salary cap concerns and those types of things. So sometimes you're wheeling and dealing, and money has a big part in it as to what you're doing. And then other times, you're just trying to trade player for player, and you're just making good trades of players. And I'm sure the money still has to add up, but the point is, you're making a big deal like this. You're really trying to improve your club, and the other team's trying to improve its club, and all that stuff. So just to go over it again, here was a trade that was made yesterday. Evander Kane, who, don't forget, had season-ending surgery last week, or the week before, whatever it's been. He's had season-ending surgery. He's out 4 to 6 months. He's out for those months. He will not play, but he got traded. Now, you can do that. Obviously, the other team has to be cool with that. But for the Buffalo Sabres, they are going nowhere, and they are going there fast. And that's where they want to go. They want to go nowhere right now. They want to go to the head of the class. They want to be there in the number 1 overall position at the draft. That's where they want to be. That's what they want to do. And I had some people say to me yesterday, boy, the Buffalo, they really went all out to make sure they're going to be the worst. Did they? I mean, is that going to really matter? So they lose. Well, let me tell you the trade. Let me tell you the trade, and then I'll go from there. So Evander Kane goes from Winnipeg to Buffalo, along with defenseman Zach Bogosian and a prospect, Jason Kasdorf. On the other side, Tyler Myers, who's been rumored to be traded for the last 2 seasons. Big defenseman. Big, tall, lanky. He was great in his first year. It's kind of tailed off. Well, he'll get a new life now as he moves to Winnipeg. Tyler Myers goes to Winnipeg along with Drew Stafford and forward prospects Joel Armia and Brendan Lemieux, along with a first-round pick, not the potential first overall pick, mind you. They had more than one, so they dealt one. All right, so let's just go through that. And let's just go through it for the big boys, okay? You've got Evander Kane. It's going to be a very good winger for the Buffalo Sabres. I don't have any question about that. Their challenge is going to be what the Winnipeg Jets challenge and the Atlanta Thrashers challenge was before them. Same franchise, different names. That challenge was to keep him in line, to keep his off-ice antics from affecting his on-ice performance. That will be the Buffalo Sabres challenge. But sometimes as a player gets older and then he changes location, sometimes that can have a profound effect. I made the statement when I was breaking this down when he was going through that whole incident in Vancouver last week or the week before, that to me, he needs to go to a team that has very good veteran leadership. Now, did he do that with the Buffalo Sabres? I guess we're going to find out. And I guess we'll find out. Well, we won't find out this year, so we're not going to find out quickly, but we're going to find out next year. There's no doubt about that. But I can tell you this, Brian Giunta is the captain of the Buffalo Sabres. And this guy has been around. He's got a lot of experience with the Devils and the Canadiens, as well as the Sabres now. And he, I think he's a pro. And don't forget, he's from that area of upstate New York. He's from Rochester. So he's basically playing in his hometown here. And he's not going to let anybody screw that up. So Brian Giunta, I'm sure at some point, whether it be short-term, long-term, doesn't matter, we'll have that type of a conversation with Evander Kane. And if it were me, I would say, listen, I don't know exactly what happened there. I've heard a whole bunch of stuff. I don't care. You and I today are starting with a clean slate. But here's what I expect from you as a member of this team, in this organization. Now, he won't be the only one to have that talk with them. I'm sure Tim Murray, the general manager, will have a conversation. I'm sure Ted Nolan, the head coach, will have a conversation. But the captain might be the most important conversation that he has. To me, he is. Because it has to be policed within the confines of the dressing room. That's where it starts. And if it's not being policed well enough there, then it moves out to the head coach. And then eventually it gets to the general manager. Look what happened in Winnipeg. Where it started, where it went, where it wound up, now where it is. Okay? So Evander Kane goes over it. I have no doubt he'll be a good player for the Buffalo Sabres. No doubt. Zach Bogosian, I think, is a good fit for the Buffalo Sabres. I think Evander Kane is the best player that was dealt in that trade. Without question, the best player dealt in that trade. I think the second best player dealt in the trade was Zach Bogosian. I think the Buffalo Sabres make out really well on this. They send back Tyler Myers. Again, great potential, and played very well early in his career, and has been suspect the last 2 seasons. Again, maybe he finds a rebirth there in Winnipeg. He's going from the last place team to a team that's fighting for a playoff spot. So now he's got something to really play for. Drew Stafford, gritty forward. You know, he's a good player. He's not an Evander Kane. And then the prospects and the picks, those you evaluate later. But let's just go with those 4 guys. Buffalo wins the trade on paper, to me. Now, you won't be able to determine that for a long time, especially with Kane hurt the rest of this year. But when people say to me that, boy, Buffalo, they're just totally throwing in the towel, huh, to make that trade. I don't understand how that's really throwing in the towel. Because for the rest of this year, what you've lost is Drew Stafford. And you were in last place with Drew Stafford. So what does it matter? You get rid of Tyler Myers, you get a potential better defenseman in Zach Bogosian, who, by the way, is also from the upstate New York area, from Messina, New York, which is in that corridor between, somewhere between Rochester or Buffalo and Syracuse. Rochester's in the middle. I think Messina may be a little bit down, maybe in the Glens Falls region. Not Glens Falls, the Watkins Glen, where the NASCAR race happens every year on a road course, where they actually make right-hand turns on that course, if you know what I mean. Now that you have your upstate New York geography taken care of for you, I shall continue. So you get Zach Bogosian. That potentially makes them better on the back end. And they'll wait for Evander Kane. Well, the Sabres weren't done yesterday either. They weren't done. They went right back to the phones. Do you still do that? Do you still trade on the phone? Or do you Skype? Do you FaceTime? Do you text? Can you trade over a text? I guess you can. And here's another question I have. Do you still have to fax the trade papers into the league? On trade deadline day, which this year is March 2nd, the trade deadline's at 3 o'clock. They'll be reporting trades at 4:30. Wow, the paperwork didn't come through. Are you really faxing that stuff still? Are you not scanning and emailing at the very least? Are you not... I mean, I can turn in my receipts by taking a picture of them and uploading them now. Do you still have to fax in the trade agreement? Curious. Because if you do, you might as well hire, if you plan on making 5 trades, hire 5 carrier pigeons and roll it up and stick it that little thing around their neck and send them off to New York. It's about the same thing. Remember the early days of faxes? It was such a brilliant new tool. I remember I worked at a resort at a front desk. And the way the faxes came in there, it was, it had, they printed off, there was a roll of carbon, whatever it was, that printed the actual words on a piece of paper as it came out. And sometimes these, they would send through the company, the corporation that owned this resort, sometimes would send some things through. And if it was really important, they would have somebody come down from upstairs and stand right at the fax machine, because there was one in the entire place. And we had it, in case a hotel guest needed to get a fax. They would send somebody down from upstairs to stand guard over the machine so that no one would see what was on the paper. No one would know the inner secrets of the inner workings of the corporation. And somebody would take that fax and they would take off. You'd never see them again. Now, you'd see them again. You'd never see the fax again. So, there were some people, and I'm going to tell you, I wasn't one of them because I wasn't close to being high enough on the food chain. There were some people, there was one manager in particular that would then take the cover off the fax machine. And you could see on that roll where it had printed out onto the paper. You had to like read it backwards. But you could decipher some of that stuff. So if there were people that were afraid they were going to make changes or they were going to downsize at the end of the ski season before the spring conference business came in, if they were worried about it, they'd be ripping the lid off that thing looking at that. I was never high enough on the food chain. It didn't matter to me. And I've never thought about it before this moment. Aren't you lucky? Aren't you lucky that there are things that just stimulate my brain and come right off the top of my head and roll off the end of my tongue? I mean, you have to be so much smarter for me telling you that story. No doubt. No doubt. In any event, that was only one of the two big trades yesterday for the Buffalo Sabres. They then sent Jonas Enroth, the goalie, to Dallas in exchange for Anders Lindback. Anders Lindback. How about this guy? Once upon a time, came up with the Nashville Predators, was backing up Pekka Rinne, was touted to be as good as Pekka Rinne. Didn't have a chance there. So Tampa Bay needed a goalie. Steve Yzerman called David Poile in Nashville and said, hey, how about the guy you have? David Poile said, sure. They traded him to Tampa. That did not work out. And Ben Bishop gets hurt. Anders Lindback never was able to fill the net for the Lightning. Didn't work. They let him go. So he goes to Dallas, playing for the Stars this year, backing up Kari Lehtinen. Job that Tim Thomas had last year, as a matter of fact. And it didn't work there either. So now he's in Buffalo. So the Sabres get another goalie. Maybe that's why people think they're throwing in a towel, because Enroth is a better goaltender than Lindback. We'll see. Enroth's a lot smaller than Lindback, I'll tell you that. So we'll see. And here's the thing about that. To say that Lindback's just going to be a sieve, I had to think about it before I actually used that term, because that is a real offensive term to a goaltender. But it's for discussion purposes. Let's say he's not very good. Okay? Well, if he's not very good, I guess it wouldn't surprise you because he struggled. But what if he is good? What if all of a sudden he is really good? And the example I want to give you is Devan Dubnyk. Devan Dubnyk has been how many places looking to be a starting goaltender that can make a difference? And he was in Edmonton, and you would think Edmonton is a place where you could make a difference. But he didn't. Of course, he had porous defense in front of him. But now look at Devan Dubnyk. Gets traded from Arizona to Minnesota, and he's like the best thing since sliced bread since he got there. And might play himself into a new contract. So here's my point. You never know with goalies. Don't think that Anders Lindback is just going to be terrible because he has been everywhere else. Because you know what? He might not be. Might not be. All right. Let me just stay on that line. Last night, rivalry night in the NHL, Detroit at Pittsburgh. Penguins coming back from their Western Canada trip, had a couple of days off to get ready for that game. Detroit came into that game pretty hot, playing well. Penguins beat them up last night, 4-1. It was 4-0 at one point. Last night also marked the return of Blake Comeau for the Pittsburgh Penguins. Blake missed 20 games because of injury. When he went out, he was playing second-line wing alongside Evgeny Malkin. Last night he went right back into that slot, playing with Malkin and Patrick Hornqvist. And you know what he did? He scored a goal and had an assist. Second-line winger. Let me read this text I got from my cousin in Pittsburgh. Talk about, at times, if you could reach through the phone and punch somebody in the face. Out of nowhere, I'm at the season ticket event last night, and I get this. Blake Comeau got an assist, his first shift back from lengthy absence. Anyone else the Blue Jackets don't want? Why does family do that to you? In any event, it did prompt the question that I tweeted out earlier this morning. And the question is, when the Blue Jackets let Blake Comeau go and explore free agency last summer, were you worried about that? Did you think about it? Did you care? And now, do you care and would you like him back? Fair questions, because hindsight is always 20/20. Now, let me preface by saying this is for discussion purposes only. This is not to point the finger and say somebody screwed up or somebody shouldn't have done this or should have done that. It's not. It's all for fun. I just wanted your opinion on it. And it was basically sparked by that text with him saying, is anybody else you guys don't want? Come on, man. Now, before I read your answers, I liked Blake Comeau. I liked him as a guy. I still like him as a guy. He's a great guy. He's a hockey player. They're all great guys. But he's a great person, and he's a good player. And even when he was here, Todd Richards used to say, once upon a time, he was a 20-goal scorer with the New York Islanders. So he knew he had offensive potential. And just because he didn't score 20 or 25 here doesn't mean that the potential wasn't there. So the Penguins, he goes into a situation where, they're scrambling throughout the year. They had injury, they had the mumps, they had all kind of stuff. They had guys dropping like flies in their lineup, just like the Blue Jackets. And that's what allows a guy that they signed potentially to be a fourth-line winger to move up. And that history of once upon a time being a 20-goal scorer, I'm sure played into his favor. Let's give Blake a chance there. They put him with Evgeny Malkin. And he's producing. So, again, it's not to say anybody screwed up. I just wonder what you think, and here's what you think. Here are your responses to that. Reichel's Ruffians. I wouldn't cringe if he returned, especially if he brought his new scoring prowess with him. Some of that might have to do with he would have to bring Evgeny Malkin with him. He's pretty good at setting a guy up, right? Let's see what else here. And I know there are a bunch of these things. Bradley Kaplinger. No matter how I feel about players coming and going, it's hard to question men like Jarmo and their plans for the future. Oh, absolutely. And I'm not questioning that. They did what they felt they had to do with him. There's no doubt. And that's their job. It's easy to make it look like it was a bad decision right now because of where the Blue Jackets are in the standings and with all the injuries they had. I mean, heck, he might have wound up a first-line winger here if he was healthy and everybody else was hurt. So, again, it's very easy. I'm not questioning their decision on this either. Absolutely not. Let's see. We got some more here. I have some regular questions I'll get to in a minute. I want to knock all these out right now. Blaine Sickles says, no, I would not want him back. Once a Penguin, always a Penguin. Mark Letestu is even hard for me. Just my opinion. Really? Mark Letestu hasn't been a Penguin for a long time, Blaine. He's way more of a Blue Jacket than he is a Penguin. No doubt. No doubt. Let me see what else. Let me see. Ellie says, my whole family on my dad's side are Pens fans. I get your pain. Okay, somebody asked me to do my Bill Clinton from yesterday again. So, once again, Ellie, I know what you mean, and I too feel your pain. I mean, I'm here for you. I know what you feel like. I know what's going on. And I did not. No, I won't go there. Ellie says, they give me crap about the Blue Jackets all the time. It's going to swing someday, Ellie. It almost swung last year in the playoffs, I'm telling you. They won't admit it now. Not one person, and I can tell you from my own family, and I saw a lot of them over the summer. Last summer, we had a 90th birthday party for my grandmother, and I saw cousins and people I haven't seen in years. And they have no idea how close the Blue Jackets were to knocking out the Penguins. That's because they don't believe it. They look at Columbus like, there ain't no way they could ever knock. This is what they would say. Ain't no way they could never knock the Pens out the playoffs. You know what I mean? Pens are too tough for them. How long's that team been around there? 2 years and that? That's the uneducated opinion of many. Not all. They're very good hockey fans, and I have some in my family. Doesn't mean that they don't drive me crazy. It's like last year in the playoffs. I have my own family texting me stuff about, hoping the Penguins win. I'm like, excuse me? Hello? No love for me? I'm working on the other side here. I remembered that at Christmas, by the way. You don't forget. I'm like a baseball player. Hockey fights happen all the time. When there's a baseball fight, many times it's from something that happened 8 months ago. It's like last September, a pitcher drilled this guy with a pitch, drilled a batter. Or no, it'd be more like this. I'm sorry. Last September, pitcher gets a home run hit off of him, and the batter, as they would say, pimps it. Flips the bat, shows off, whatever the case is. And then you don't play that team again until May. And the first time the guy comes up against that same pitcher, he drills him right in the middle of the back. Because he hasn't forgotten about last September. See, that's how I am. So they make the comments in April. I remember them in December. I see it as fair. I don't know. And I didn't ask anybody if it was right or not because I don't care. I thought I had way more of these things. Oh, here we go. Yes. Ian Dennis says, I remember a game in the playoffs where he had a hat trick worth of penalties, and that's about all I remember from him. Talking about Blake Como here, by the way. If you're just tuning in. Felino for captain says, I liked him then. I'd love him now. Laugh out loud. We could use him about now. We could use anybody right now. No, that's not true. Guys are getting healthy. Brian Gibbons was on the ice today. James Wisniewski skated today. Jared Boll was out there skating today. So guys are coming back. Let me see. What else? Howie. Is that how it is? H-O-W-Y-E? Howie? Is that how we're saying that? That's how I said it, but it might not be right. He says, no, much more concerned about losing Skilly, which wish they could get him back. Wish they could get who back? Skilly, he is back. He's here. And you're worried about losing Skilly? I didn't know he's going anywhere. Courtney says, I'm just concerned about trade rumors of Atkinson and Calvert. Fro says, no and no, having a good season, Blake Como, but he's pretty much a dime a dozen player. I don't know if he's a dime a dozen player. He's a dime a dozen player when he's playing on the fourth line. A fourth liner that can jump up and play on the second line and produce, that's not necessarily a dime a dozen. Again, not questioning the move whatsoever. But I'm just pointing out, you can't. Who else do they even have in Pittsburgh playing on their fourth line? I have no idea. I'll know by next Thursday. But, well, that's been a revolving door for them too. But anyway, my point is, you don't normally go from fourth line to second line. Although Corey Tropp just did a good job of that here in the last couple of weeks. Danny says no. He made too many dangerous hits for my liking and is easily replaceable. Too many dangerous hits for my liking. Yeah, he thumped a couple of guys from behind against the glass. I mean, he didn't end anybody's career. So I don't mind it. I don't mind it at all. Swordless Mime Town. What went into that? Coming up with that name. Swordless Mime Town says, no and no. Didn't worry about him leaving, wouldn't want him back. All right. And there we go. Simple as that. All right, now to some other questions that we have here. Did I say that Bill said yes squared, yes and yes? Bill was one of the first, and maybe the only, that said absolutely. Oh, I forgot. How could I forget about Ron Bevilacqua? He says, we haven't easily replaced him. I'd love to have him back. Ron Bevilacqua. Love that name, Ron. Your last name. What was the guy that Letterman used to always talk about on his show back in the day? What was this? Oh, gosh. Probably the 80s. Kansas City shortstop, was it? Buddy Biancalana. That was it. That was it. All right, what other questions do we have for me today? Going to make me work today. I got to do something. Josh Hall has this question. First of all, Josh Hall has a Como comment. This will be the last one. He says, I'd be happy camper if we got him back. Loved his physicality. But weren't there some issues with him and Doobie? Yeah, he beat up Brandon Dubinsky in practice. Or they fought. I shouldn't say beat him up. They fought in practice one day. But that happens. They were still buddies afterwards, and they still hung out all the time. It's hockey. You can punch your friend in the face. You can knock his teeth out. You can knock him out for 3 weeks. You're still friends. Just how it is. Hard to grasp, isn't it? But it's true. Josh Hall. During interviews with players, is there a hierarchy to who asks questions, or does the media just take turns? Yes, there is a hierarchy. I go first unless I defer. I go first unless I defer. I'm only half joking about that. And what I mean is, to be honest with you, I'll be honest. I just said that. I repeated myself. I'm sorry. At this time of the year, you feel like you've asked every guy the same question 100 times. There are times you go in there and you're like, I don't want to bug him again. I told Ryan Johansson the other day. We walked into the room after the Kings loss. There was one guy in the whole room, and it was him. I said, man, you got to get out of there. I feel bad. I only have one place to go. It's back to you. I feel like I'm beating you up after a lot of losses. He knows it's his job, and he laughed. But sometimes you do. You feel like that. You're like, man, I hate to ask him, especially when it's a guy that had a pretty good game, and other guys did not. So after a loss, I tend to be the guy that is okay with being quiet. After a loss, the guy I like to see the most is Aaron Portzline of the Columbus Dispatch, because I know he'll go in and he'll ask the questions that'll get me everything I need. That's the honest truth. After losses. And not always. Like the other night, Scott Hartnell came out after the Kings game, and I just happened to be closest to him, so I started the interview. I mean, Dave Metzold was in there from Fox. Dave will jump in and start a lot of them. But I feel like I'm around all the time and always bugging them for something. So especially after a loss when the mood is not great, I'm more than happy to defer and let somebody else ask the questions. I'm fine with that. Now, after a win, I'm a front runner, man. I want to jump in there and be the first guy. I want to jump right in there and, Matt Calvert, you had a great game tonight. And here I am to talk to you and put you on TV. So, no, it's just, there's so many of us that are in there all the time. And I'm talking about Aaron Portzline, Sean Mitchell of the Dispatch, even Mike Arace of the Dispatch, and Dave Metzold and I. We're the constants, I would say. And then other guys, people come in from Channel 10, Channel 4, Channel 6, all that stuff, and they kind of defer in a way because they know we're there every day, and if we don't ask a question that gets them the answer they're looking for, then they'll ask the question, and that's just how it's that's how it works. Somebody starts, and then if I don't have what I need by the time they're done asking questions, then I'll ask. If I get the answer, I'm not going to ask the question again. So we kind of look at each other and, you get the nod. Yeah, you go ahead. Yeah, today's your day. Sometimes on the road, Dave Metzold is waiting for them to tell him that he can start, and we're positioned in front of a guy, but he's not got the signal to go yet, and he'll tell me, go ahead, you start. I'll just jump in. So that's how it works, Josh. It's silent signals. We don't talk about it. We don't set it up outside the room before we go in. Trust me on that. That would be too much work. Way too much work. Let's see. What else? Zook says, like you said, I would take Como back if we also get Malkin. Then we would have a problem, though, Zook. We would have a serious problem. Because Nick Foligno should not have to give up his number 71. So that would be a problem. Problem in the making. There you go. What else do we got here? Allie. Sad I didn't listen yesterday on my drive out. Would have enjoyed that. What should I check out while I'm in town? Oh, so drive out. So I'm assuming you came into Columbus yesterday. What should you check out while you're in town? I don't know, but make sure it's inside. No, you don't have to make sure it's inside. You can head out to Easton, check out the shops. You can go to the Thurman Go to the Thurman Cafe, get a burger. Get a Scooby-Doo burger. That's what I like to refer to it as. Remember on Scooby-Doo, they used to get those big sandwiches, and Shaggy and Scooby would just take them and smash them down and eat them in one bite? You can't do that. You need a fork and knife to cut your burger. But they are that big. So I'd check that out. If you're hungry, you'll be good for a week if you have that. What else? Stace wants to know, did you enjoy the event last night? I did. A ton. Yes, I did. Frederick Cairo II. Frederick sent this yesterday, and I think it was after the show, or I didn't see it until after the show. There's a report out, NHL on NBC Sports, that the Bruins are targeting Cam Atkinson. That they are looking to get Cam Atkinson. Of course, he went to Boston College and would have an automatic tie there. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. I've read the stuff that Aaron Portzline has written in the Dispatch about that. And he makes great points. I mean, restricted free agent. I don't know. I'm really kind of, I'm torn on this. If he leaves, I'll be upset if he leaves. But if he leaves, in saying that, I know it's going to be for something to better this team for the future. And I would think to better his situation too. But I don't know. It's so hard for me to I'm not objective in many cases because I have relationships with these guys and I know who they are off the ice and I enjoy being around them. So it's very easy to say, get rid of this guy and bring in somebody else and this will make you better. And in many cases, you're probably right. But when you factor in the human element of it, and there are guys that you enjoy being around and then they're not going to be around, that's so I'm not objective. I'm terrible with that. That's, again, I told you I wouldn't want to be a GM. That's part of the reason. I could see me sitting there and going, man, I really should trade this guy. We could get so much better, but he's such a good guy. I love this guy. He's got a great family, and you got to put that all out. It doesn't count when you're going to wheel and deal. So it always counts with me. Craig Levasseur. I can't believe I got Levasseur and Bevilacqua in the same show. Yes, this is a good show. Craig says, how much had Bobrovsky meant to the Columbus Blue Jackets, not only on the ice, but off it? Everything. Absolutely everything. Work ethic, personality, his infectious smile, everything, Craig. He means everything to this team. He is arguably this team's best player on and off the ice, just with everything that he brings. So there you go. Oh, Allie says she's not going to be able to stay inside today. She's checking out Ohio State. All right, well then all I can say is bundle up. And I hope you enjoy it. I think you'll be impressed. Hope you're impressed. Let's see. See, Frederick said he sent that thing about Atkinson yesterday, but forgot the hashtag. CBJIN30. That's how I can miss things. You're making me look in two different columns. I'm not a smart man. I play one on the radio, though. Just going to search through one more time and make sure there's nothing else I missed today. And I'm looking in the hashtag column, actually. Blaine Sickles has this question. With the Blue Jackets' one national TV game coming up at Pittsburgh, are you indifferent that the Blue Jackets didn't get a single home game on national TV? Am I indifferent? Yeah. It's nice. It's great exposure. No doubt about that. But, actually, they did get a home game on national TV. They got one on international TV. It was the All-Star game. And I think what was portrayed that weekend carries a lot more weight than having one regular season home game on national TV. And those games will come. They will come. I'm surprised, to be honest with you, there weren't more of them this year after the way last year went. And now next year, there may not be very many because of the way this year's going. But that will come. Once you get too good for them to ignore, that will come. That will come. I do notice that we're playing Pittsburgh on Thursday, not on Wednesday, so it's not a rivalry night. It's not going to be an Ash Wednesday rivalry night game by any means. But anyway. And plus, I feel for my buddies. Jeff Rimmer and Jody Shelley don't get to work when it's on national TV. So, looking out for them, too. They want to work. Maybe I can talk Jody into doing some work that day. But I don't blame him if he says no. I don't. Not once. I wouldn't blame him. All right. I think I've gotten everything today. I'm pretty sure. I'm looking it over and over and over, and I think we're good. I think we've touched upon all of it. I mean, it's the CBJ in 40, almost. So, yeah, I think we've got it all. And it's been good. It's been great, as a matter of fact. And tomorrow, you know what's going to be great? We're going to get back to playing hockey. Philadelphia Flyers are here tomorrow night. Scott Hartnell's 1,000th game will be celebrated, pregame ceremony, along with a lot of his former teammates on the Philadelphia Flyers. And he will embrace them, and then he'll go out and punch some of them a little bit later on when the puck drops for the game. Blue Jackets heading a very crucial stretch here. They've got 6 games coming up, all against the East, 5 against the Metropolitan Division. If there is an opportunity to make the playoffs, and as somebody told me last night, they are not mathematically eliminated. And that gentleman was absolutely right, dead on right. But if you want to improve your chances, this 6-game stretch is crucial for the Blue Jackets. It starts at home tomorrow. It is the only home game of the stretch. Then it's on to Long Island, to Philly, to Pittsburgh, to Montreal, to New York to play the Rangers. It's going to be a tough one. Very tough. But at this time of the year, if you want to be in it, these are the games you have to play. These are the games you have to win. As the nature boy Ric Flair always says, if you want to be the best, you've got to beat the best. Woo! Right? Something like that. Not even close. If I had the feathery hair, I should show you some old junior high school pictures. No, I shouldn't. No, I won't, as a matter of fact. 7 o'clock tomorrow night, Nationwide Arena. Tomorrow, the Morning Skate Live edition of CBJ in 30. You know what that means? I'll be on live at 10 o'clock tomorrow. Players will be on the ice skating. We'll talk about the team. We'll get head coach Todd Richards on the show. We'll get a player on the show. That is all coming up tomorrow, 10 o'clock on the air tomorrow morning. Until then, bundle up, enjoy the snow flurries, and have a good Thursday. Won't you please?